Hello, it is November the 6th, 2025, and it's time for the weekly word. And the weekly word is evidence. Our key scripture is Acts 14 and verse 17. Yet he did not leave himself without witness, for he did good by giving you rains from heaven and fruitful seasons, satisfying your hearts with food and gladness. So, the definition of evidence is witness, it's testimony, it's concrete proof. New Oxford Dictionary says it's the available body of facts or information indicating whether the proposition is true or valid. It's signs or indications of something. So, a few weeks back, we were at Victory Church in New London, Wisconsin, and one of the songs we sang was I See the Evidence of Your Goodness All Over My Life by Josh Baldwin. And as we were singing it, I gained a fresh appreciation as we sang it. And the realization of what it means has continued to fill me with gratefulness ever since. And at the time that we sang it, I had no idea what the next 2 weeks would hold for us. But it starts out the first verse with all throughout my history, your faithfulness has walked beside me. The winter storms made way for spring. In every season from where I'm standing, I see the evidence of your goodness all over my life. I see your promises in fulfillment all over my life. So, what is the evidence of God's goodness all over your life? Well, historically, my first thought is went to creation, especially this time of the year where we're in the north, there's seasons and the colors are changing. Romans 1 and verse 20 says, his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world in the things that have been made. So they are without excuse. All the world, all creation, everybody, we have the evidence of God. Last night we had the super moon that was seen all over the world. Psalms 8, verse 3 and 4, when I look at your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have set in place, what is man that you are mindful of him, and the Son of Man that you care for him? The evidence of God's goodness is all around us, but are we recognizing it? So, number one, evidence is the evidence of creation. Number two, evidence is the fresh realization that I was struck with that as we were singing that song in that worship service, I realized that the people that God has put in my life are a huge evidence of his goodness. And as we went through different missions conferences the last few weeks and visited different churches, being in so many different people's homes, over and over again, I was struck with the reality that these people in our lives are the evidence of God's goodness. And then we ended up from that going right into Darlene's mom's funeral with her uncles and her aunts who were so supportive and so encouraging. They've lived their lives as amazing examples of what it means to be a follower of Jesus. So as we were surrounded by your huge family, it was just an evidence of God's goodness all over our lives. And we came back to Michigan and we just have so many quality, dear friends here and our own McCoy family reaching out to us, just loving us. Friends just stopping by right when you need them are evidence of God's goodness all over our lives. Do you see the people that God has placed in your lives as evidence of his goodness? The third evidence I would say are the little coincidences that are easy to brush off as chance, or some people call them luck, but they're not. I was talking to Pastor Freddie in the Philippines this morning, and he was saying how they had a prayer meeting that was super encouraging because everybody was sharing their small wins. And we pray for a lot of stuff every day, but then are we going back and recognizing the small wins as evidence of God's goodness all over our lives? Just in the last week or so, We've got so many examples from our own life, recognizing the goodness of God and his timing of us being home in the States at this time so that Darlene could be there with her mom and with her family leading up to her mom's graduation to heaven, being here for the funeral. Grace had been in Africa for the last 2 weeks, and she was scheduled to fly in on Tuesday night. I was sitting in the airport parking lot in the cell phone waiting area when the call came in from Darlene that her mom had went on. And minutes later, Grace's plane landed. And Bobby and Krista had been driving all day from Minnesota and had just arrived in Michigan. So since Darlene was already in Pennsylvania, I was able to ride out together with all the kids and all the grandkids in Bobby's van. God knew that it had been on Darlene's heart that she would be here for her family if they needed her. And he made a way for all of us to be together. Psalms 103 verse 2 says, "Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits." All the little coincidences that happen in our lives, they're easy to brush off as chance or luck or just it's just so happened, but they're not. They're evidences of God's goodness. And besides that, we have these little personal things between us and God. Just like a husband or a wife or with close friends, we have certain words or things that might be insignificant to anybody else, but they have meaning to us because of shared life experiences or because of relationship. It could be a particular number or time of the day or a phrase or just something that happened at an exact moment in our life that maybe we don't even share with others. It's just between us and God. Specific things that happen at specific points in our life that, again, are not significant to someone else, but in your heart, you know that that was God. That wasn't just a coincidence. Gideon had his fleece. Moses had his burning bush. Jacob had his ladder to heaven. Saul had his road to Damascus. The prophet Elijah had his food delivered by birds. Fingerprints of God, evidence of his goodness all over our lives. And they're easier to recognize when we're going through a major life event. But are we recognizing them in the everyday? A friend of mine recently told me about his vacation and how it had some unexpected challenges. But then he says, but we kept seeing the fingerprints of God taking care of us and how someone would go out of their way to help us just when we really needed it. I love that thought of seeing the fingerprints of God in our everyday life. So again, I see the evidence of your goodness all over my life. I encourage you to listen to that song by Josh Baldwin today. I want to thank all of you whose lives are evidence of God's goodness to my life and encourage all of us to keep being that evidence to the lives of those around us. God bless you. Have a wonderful week.